And welcome back, everyone. Excuse me, to Zanpakuto Creation Series. This one comes to us from Zombie Demon, who asked the question, "What is a Zanpakuto of Kratos from Sparta?" Now, this falls into one of those categories of we've actually already got a perfect weapon for Hishikai in the game, which is the Blades of Chaos. So that would be Hishikai. In its standard form, it would still be a katana. I have no doubt about that. The type, though, is a melee slash keto elemental type. What do I mean by slash slash? Well, first off, its release command is "Wear your sins." Its release is Blade of Sparta, not Blades of Chaos, mind you, but Blades of Sparta. And then its Bankai is Judgment of Sparta, or Sparta no Ha, at least, again, how Google Translate does it. Sparta no Ha or Sparta no Hadin. His spirit would piss him off all the time because his spirit would, in essence, be Ares from Greek, because he is basically the one who made Kratos the way he is. So the fact that it's ingrained into his soul would make a lot of sense. But obviously, he has the Blades of Sparta. Now, now I do remember that these things were bound to him at one point, and in the original games, and then in the God of War games, the newest ones, Ragnarok and the other one, he was able to remove them, but then he basically attached them back to his wrists, and all well and good. I don't believe they were like joined back into his arms and just combined with his fist. Here, I think you get that, like the Shikai melds into his wrists, damaging him. He's like, "Argh!" And he just swings it, and when he swings it, he creates the fire effects you see him create in the games. But the thing about it being the keto type is based on the name, based on the release more than anything. I think what this Zanpakuto actually does is it strengthens itself based on the sins of the user. Someone like Kratos, who harbors so much guilt and regret and anger over what he did, do with their manipulation or through his own actions, I think a Zanpakuto that feeds off sin itself, first off, is a unique concept and works perfectly for someone like Kratos, who harbors all these regrets and these sins of the acts he's committed. And so so the more sins he's done in his life, the stronger his fire is, along with the fact that his own Ryatsu, whatever would be here. But then there's the Bankai, and in the Bankai, you have him just, Bankai! It almost sounded like Yamamoto there. Bankai, Zonko no Tachi. No, but Bankai, Sparta no Hadin. The chains release from his arms. His arms do heal up. And the Blades of Sparta, I think, grow a little bit larger. Like, they're very short swords. They're practically just machetes. But I imagine they might grow, I don't know, maybe an extra half a foot, being close to more like scimitars, but not quite. But more to the point, the chains, similar to Hisage's Zanpakuto, would kind of encompass the entire area in a dome. Unlike say Hisage's Bankai, where it's this giant ball, it's just chains as far as you can see. And all the same abilities are there for Kratos, except now it's feeding not just off of Kratos' sins, but the opponent he's fighting as well. Now, this all, and the chains can also attack, bind, keep someone in place. The stronger of a sin that the opponent has done, the harder it is for them to get out of this chain. And it all feeds into Kratos, who could deliver like a giant, swapping flame attacks, recover maybe based off, what the opponent has done, so forth and so on. A very unique capability, but the weaknesses of this blade would become very apparent. Someone other than Kratos, who has maybe led a pretty pure life, would not be a good Zanpakuto because they would not have committed a lot of atrocities in their life. This would not be a very powerful Zanpakuto. Its Bankai could be a lot stronger, but it all depends on the opponent, which leads to the other problem with this Zanpakuto, which is the biggest one. What do you qualify as a sin? Like for Kratos, it's clear. He butchered an entire pantheon of gods, he literally wears his sin on his skin, the ashes of his loved ones. It's not like we're talking about like the biblical sense, like the 7 deadly sins. Although that could play a factor. Someone who's entirely greedy, gluttonous, who did things for self-centered reasons, things along those lines. That could qualify for as a sin. But then you also talk about in Bleach terms, like the Soul Society's greatest sin was the dismembering of the Soul King. Now, how many people are aware of that? Who knows? And I think that would be very telling in terms of what the how powerful it would be against someone like most of the like 13 court guard squad, especially the modern era, aren't even aware of that sin. That sin would not play a factor. But for people like Kyoraku, who was aware of the sin, Urahara, Ichibei, who was directly there, this Zanpakuto would get fueled up the yin-yang by that, because that is probably one of the greatest sins you could have committed in that series. So it all depends, but against someone, I use Kenpachi a lot because when we're talking about Ryatsu versus Ryatsu, there you go. But against someone like Kenpachi, the guy is a brutal monster, and he's butchered a lot, but he doesn't hold any regret over that. He doesn't recognize it as a sin. And I think that is would be a telling point of the Zanpakuto. The opponent would have to be aware that the actions they have committed are in some way sinful. Zaraki is an example of someone who does not have any regrets considering anything a sin, apart from maybe killing Unohana, but even that, he doesn't consider that a sin. It's the concept of sin that is very, and Zaraki's not gluttonous. He's definitely battle hungry, so maybe that could feed off Zaraki. It could feed off Zaraki that way. Yamamoto, however, was a cold-blooded killer for a long time. That man's got a lot of sin under his belt. Kyoraku, not a cold-blooded killer, but has a very strong dark side to him, and therefore is very aware of the sins of the Soul Society. So that would work against him. Mayuri, definitely. Mayuri's a weird one because he thinks it's all for science and for the Soul Society. But let's be honest, he has done horrific things. He's mutilated people. Killing someone could be considered like a minor sin, and that maybe your body count factors into that. But the reasons behind you killing someone, I think, would play a bigger factor into it. So yeah, how you define sin is probably the biggest stipulation of this Zanpakuto, because if technically you're going with everyone like the 7 deadly sins and how big of a transaction among those you're committing, such as, are you Mauricio, just a greedy glutton? Are you Soifon, who's so prideful she'd rather not work with Urahara she'd rather let the Soul Society burn than not work with Urahara. That's the grow up Soifon. That lust. Kyoraku could fall into that category. Sloth, laziness, any of those. Hypothetically, you could apply those, but we're also talking about like personal sin, things along those lines. Someone, for instance, like Byakuya could qualify for sin because he was going to execute Rukia because he thought it was right, and then Ichigo talked him down from it and ultimately stopped him. But that could still qualify. That very well could qualify, yeah. Tozen definitely had sin under his belt. Same with Gin. Aizen didn't think what he was doing was sinful. In fact, if he thought he was doing the right thing, but he did do some terrible things. So this is a Zanpakuto that could feed off of him as well. Now, let me be very clear too. This is not hurting you based on your sin. This is just being powered up because of the sin your opponent has. So just because you maybe are one of the most sinful individuals who has ever lived, doesn't mean this thing's going to one-shot you or anything like that. It just means you're going to be fueling this Zanpakuto far more than just Kratos' sins are going to be doing. But that is, in my opinion, the Zanpakuto of Kratos. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you like this Zanpakuto idea? Do you dislike it? Do you think this works for him? Do you have a better idea? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.